Hey everybody, I'm Zach.
And I'm Jesse.
And you're watching In Depth.
On Now You Know.
Our show is sponsored this week by our friends at the amazing Fairfield Inn and Suites by Marriott in Schaumburg, Illinois. They're special because...
Solar-powered hotel.
Solar-powered hotel.
Boom.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. You got to go there. If you're in the Chicago area, I urge you to stay there. A lot of people say to us, Jesse, we hear this all the time because we're in the middle of the whole Tesla tornado. Mm-hmm. They say, yeah, but Tesla got subsidies from the government, and that's why they were able to even stay alive. If it weren't for that, they would have failed.
Right. It's because of all those government subsidies.
Yeah.
That's the only reason why they're a company.
And you know what, Jesse? Mm-hmm. It's kind of true. I mean, let's be honest.
Sure.
Tesla got $465 million in federal loans back in 2010. Mm-hmm. So you're right. They got some loans from the government. So I thought it was important to talk about, is Tesla special? Is it the only company that's getting tax abatements and tax incentives?
Right. And I mean, this loan, where's that $465 million?
Right. And also, Nevada has given them like $1.3 billion in tax abatements.
Yeah.
Right. So
ridiculous.
So let's...
Unbelievable. I can't believe it. So let's talk about this for a second.
Okay. Tesla has gotten $3.5 billion in grants and tax credits from state and local and federal governments.
Wow.
And they've gotten $0.5 billion, $500 million in loans, loan guarantees, and bailout assistance from the federal government. Okay.
That's a lot of money.
So maybe these arguments are true, Jesse. Mm-hmm. Maybe they're special. And if it weren't for this special treatment they've gotten.
Right. They're being handled with kid gloves.
Right.
Kid gloves.
Yep. Let's just reveal a little bit more of this chart here.
Okay.
Fiat Chrysler. They got $2.2 billion in grants and credits.
It's less.
Oh, but if we go a little bit further down, in loans and loan guarantees, they got $17.6 billion. So I guess... Tesla wasn't the only one. Fiat Chrysler.
Okay.
That's the other one.
Sure. Yeah.
Oh, wait. This chart goes a little lower. General Motors. Okay, so General Motors got total grants and tax credits of $6 billion and total loans of $50.3 billion. So it's starting to look less and less like Tesla got like special treatment. Oh, wait, and Ford here. Ford got $4 billion in total grants and $27.6 billion in total loans and loan guarantees and bailout assistance. So I guess this goes to show that Tesla's not alone in getting these handouts and loans and stuff. But they did get them, right?
They did get them.
So
yeah, okay.
So let's just dive into Ford, for instance, right? Yeah. So for instance, Ford was given a loan of $5.9 billion in 2009, and remember this was during the financial meltdown, right? We wanted to keep Ford from going under because all those jobs would have been lost,
right? But it's just a loan; they pay it back,
right? They're supposed to pay it back, right? Except they still owe $3.5 billion on that loan. That's 10 years ago.
Wow.
And they're not scheduled to pay it off until 2022. But that must just be an anomaly. That's just, I'm sure GM, which also got a loan, there, right? So they were bailed out during the financial crisis.
Yeah.
And they got $50 billion, right? So what happened was the U.S. government became a 61% owner of GM, right? Got a whole bunch of stock. And then from 2010 through 2013, they started selling the stock back off to make back their money. So they must be paid off by now, right?
No.
Oh, how much does GM still owe?
$11.2 billion.
Oh, so that's what that cost, huh? The bailout.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not going to say it was a bad idea. Maybe, I can't predict what would have happened during the financial crisis if we had just let GM go under and let Ford go under. Maybe with all those jobs and all those problems, it would have just torn our economy apart.
Right.
So maybe it was worth it.
Maybe they were too big to fail.
Right. So, so I'm not saying it was the wrong thing to do.
Yeah.
I just want to point out that it did happen. Mm-hmm. These companies did get that. And in fact, it's happening today. Let's look at Amazon, right? Mm-hmm. Amazon recently wanted to start a new headquarters. And so they were kind of getting this bidding process going across the country. Like, hey, what do you give us if we open our headquarters there?
And we're talking about tax incentives. We're talking about don't pay any taxes up to a certain amount.
Not just that, but also like building infrastructure. Like some cities were like, we'll build out more housing, we'll build out more roads, better transportation for your employees. So many, let's just show this list here. Many different places like Montgomery County, Maryland, they offered Amazon $8.5 billion in incentives to just open their headquarters there.
Now, is this bad? Why did they do this?
Pretty smart if you're a place that needs a lot of high-tech, well-trained people to come work there and boost your economy, right? Because you'll get instantly thousands of people coming to work for you with a company that you know is a very successful company.
Right. So basically, jobs, and the jobs in an area get you economic stability because they are all paying taxes, they are all buying things, and that tax revenue gets.
And not only that, if all those people move to your community, they're all going to need houses and cars and services and restaurants and all that stuff. So all of that will follow.
So the local economy has a huge boom, even though you might be taking the hit on the tax for the, Amazon headquarters. And that's just one example. And there are many reasons why you wouldn't want the Amazon headquarters in, say, a city, because all the property prices
that's a really good example. So Boston, for instance, Boston, Massachusetts was pretty much said, we're not going to give you any incentives. I mean, they made a nice little presentation, but there was really no money, and they weren't chosen, probably because they didn't offer anything.
Right.
So we're just pointing out that this happens, it continues to happen, and this is kind of how business works in America. And if you're a company, you'd be stupid not to do it this way. I mean, that makes a lot of sense, right? So we saw this video that we're going to put in the show notes below about Louisiana. And it was really touching to both Jesse and I, because we realized that Louisiana does this to the opposite extreme. Louisiana gives huge tax breaks to companies to get them to stay in Louisiana and just go there in the first place. And so check this out. Between 1998 and 2016, 16,923 applications were given to the ITEP board, which is the board that decides whether or not they should give out tax abatements and tax incentives. Guess how many were rejected?
What, like 6,000?
No, 8 were rejected.
800?
No, 8.
8.
8.
Out of 16,923. That's nothing.
99.95% of the applications were approved. Basically just rubber stamp committee. Just like, oh, you want a tax break? Ka-chung. Want a tax break?
Okay. Okay. But so what businesses are we talking about here? Are we talking about like Stop and Shop?
These are big companies that we're talking about. We're going to get to the list in a second. But I do want to say that, first of all, this kind of worked. For many reasons, Louisiana is number 1 or number 2 in many categories. Let's look at this. Like, Louisiana is number 2 in the U.S. in crude oil refining. Over 25% of all the crude oil refinement takes place in Louisiana. Natural gas, they're number 4 in production in the U.S. Chemical production, they're number 3 in the U.S. So 25% of all chemical production in the U.S. takes place in Louisiana. They're a top 10 oil-producing state. They're the heart of the U.S. pipeline, 112,000 miles of pipeline in Louisiana. They are the number 2 sugar production, number 3 rice production, and they are number 1 or 2 since 2008 in getting foreign direct investment.
Okay, so they should be rich. I mean, these are all super duper rich industries.
Yeah.
And they're all right there.
Yeah. So, I mean, let's look at the companies that you were asking about that get the tax breaks, right? So BASF, a huge chemical company, they have a piece of property there in Louisiana that's worth $1.3 billion. And what kind of tax exemptness do they get?
5%, 10%?
A little higher.
20%?
A little higher.
40%?
They get a 73% tax break. So $964 million worth of their property is exempt from taxes.
It's like off the books.
Off the books.
So instead of having a $1.3 billion facility, it's like
a $0.3 billion facility.
It's like a $300 million facility.
Right. But it doesn't stop there. Let's look at, it's going to be hard to go through this whole list. So let's just kind of scroll through. There's Methanex there. They get a 99% exemption. There's Calumet. They get an 89%. Cameron LNG, which is liquid natural gas, they get a 99.99% exemption on an $11.7 billion property. Cheniere, they get 98.9% exemption. Westlake Chemical, Shintech, Folgers, Calmet Refining, P&G, Marathon Oil, Valero, ExxonMobil, all of them get huge, more than 50%, more than 60% exemptions from taxes. And it must be working, right? I just said Louisiana is like number 1, number 2, number 3.
Right.
It attracted all these huge companies. So that must mean they're one of the richest states in the union.
No, I mean, everyone knows that Louisiana is a poor state.
But how could it be? We just attracted all these gigantic corporations.
Right. They are number 46th in infant mortality in the United States.
So that's good, right?
No. Out of the 50 states, they are not the first, not the second in terms of lowest.
Okay.
They have one of the highest infant mortality rates. They are number 49 in poverty, number 47 in household income, the lowest. Number 47 in food insecurity, number 50 in income gap by gender, number 47 in property crime, number 46 in violent crime, number 48 in reading scores, number 49 in math scores, number 48 in life expectancy.
Okay, but the U.S. News Report puts out the top 50 states by list, so they must have squeaked in higher this year. What are they at now?
50. They're at the lowest. They are the worst overall state. So, I mean...
So wait, it didn't work.
It didn't work. Here is where this kind of... It goes to the opposite extreme. You bring in all these businesses, except instead of boosting your economy, you have completely destroyed your economy, because these are not like just businesses where they're going to hire a bunch of people and everyone's going to be highly trained and well paid. These are, oil refineries.
These are dangerous.
These are dangerous places to work. Not,
and they're very polluting.
People don't want to live there. Yeah, right. You're polluting your land. So, an oil refinery goes up. It's not the cleanest place to live. No one wants to live there. Your property prices, your property values go down. Okay, the opposite of what happens when Amazon moves into town, where all the property prices go up.
So in 2014, Nevada gave Tesla a big financial incentive. They gave them $1.3 billion in tax incentives so that they would build the Gigafactory 1 there in Sparks, Nevada, rather than some other state. Mm-hmm. And I'm beginning to think maybe that was a dumb idea then. Maybe this is like Louisiana. Maybe this is not going to be good for the state.
Well, no. I mean, let's talk about this. Derek Armstrong, the deputy director of the governor's office of economic development, said, "The promises made have been promises kept. We're extremely happy to see what they've done so far." And so Tesla has exceeded their expectations in the development of the Gigafactory. They've created 7,000 jobs and put in $6 billion in capital investment in the Gigafactory.
Oh, okay. So basically the plan was we give you these tax breaks, and then we laid out kind of what you're going to give us, Tesla. So by 2018, Tesla was supposed to employ 6,500 employees, but I guess they didn't do that.
Tesla didn't do that. They actually had 7,059 employees, so over 500 above the target.
Okay, but those are probably jobs that like from overseas or something like that.
No, the 93% were Nevadans.
Oh.
So from people from the area.
Okay, but they must have gotten paid like crappy wages, like minimum wage.
Average wage was $25.75 an hour, and about 17,000 direct construction jobs were formed building the Gigafactory, and 7,900 indirect jobs have been created in the Washoe and Story counties between 2015 and 2018.
Wow.
Both of which surpassed projections. The total economic impact of construction to date is estimated to be $3.23 billion. That is $843 million higher than the projected.
Wait, so you're saying this investment that Nevada made by giving them a tax break is paying off? They're making more. They're building the economy.
Right. Basically, they've given a tax incentive, but they're building the economy right behind it. So, and I mean, they didn't give some crazy 99%, tax incentive year over year after year of these tax incentives to Tesla. It was basically just to build their Gigafactory.
Okay, but these are numbers that probably Tesla is just making up, like out of nowhere.
No, this is a report from the Nevada government. So,
these numbers we're seeing here are like what Nevada actually believes happened.
Right. If anyone wanted to minimize the numbers, it would be Nevada, because then they could get rid of the tax incentives for Tesla, and Tesla would have to pay them more taxes.
So those percentages we're seeing on the side, that's how much more Tesla has produced than they even said they would.
Yes.
Nevada gave them till 2024 to create $3.5 billion in capital investment. Mm-hmm. And you're saying that as of June of this year, Tesla already created $6 billion.
Yeah.
So ahead of schedule and over what they said they were going to create.
The report says that this investment has permanently changed the economic landscape of the area, serving as a catalyst for additional development and increasing the demand for housing, retail, and other services by bringing in new workers. So, for example, the population in Story, Washoe, and Lyon counties grew by about 25,500 people combined between 2014 and 2017. Other tech companies such as Switch, Jet.com, and Blockchains chose to locate in this region, in part due to the increased visibility that Tesla created.
Wait, so even other companies are moved in just because Tesla's now there?
Right. I mean, and this causes more infrastructure. More infrastructure means that companies will be like, oh, this is a good location for our place. This is what should happen when you're giving tax incentives. You know, there are film tax incentives. California has lots of tax incentives for film.
You hear that all the time. States are like, don't give, tax incentives to big Hollywood companies because they don't deserve it. They don't need it.
Right.
But if you don't, they're not going to come to your state and film.
And there's a balance there. And so you can see both sides of it. You can see the Tesla side where you're giving a tax break and you're building up an economic area. And you can see the Louisiana side where I would argue corrupt politicians line their pockets with lobbying money to basically gut the tax programs in all of those states.
Right, because Louisiana is offering incentives far beyond what they need to. By giving these 70, 80, 90% tax exemptions, no other state's going to do that. So why, Louisiana, are you offering that's obviously corruption.
Right. What Nevada has done with the gigafactory is they've created this area. This tax incentive is just the beginning part, right? It's just to get Tesla off the ground in Nevada, is to attract them there. Same thing with the Amazon headquarters. It's just to attract the business there, which brings up your economic value. With Louisiana, having these just continuous tax breaks for no apparent reason. I mean, if Louisiana wanted to, they could raise the taxes because they've got them there. All the infrastructure for oil goes straight through. And here's the other thing. You've attracted all these businesses who haven't been paying you any money. And, sure, maybe they do employ people for awful jobs and awful wages, but the oil industry is going to go away, like we talked about in depth last week. And so then what?
Right.
Now you don't have any of that there.
Right. You have a dying industry in your state.
You lose all these jobs. And now what do you have?
Right. Louisiana should be attracting new companies that are going to form new innovative technologies, not just a dying industry. And as you just pointed out, if you are one of these pipeline companies, you're not going to leave Louisiana. They've got the infrastructure there. You're going to take your plant and just move it to another state?
You can't just rip up your pipeline and just plot it somewhere else in the next, day, year, month. It does not work like that.
No.
Pipelines are really hard to build. They're really long and expensive. And when you build that infrastructure, you want to keep it.
For these people who say that, Tesla got the special treatment, they didn't get special treatment. Every company gets tax breaks and abatements. And so what's different here, though, is that Tesla's actually met their commitments. They paid back their $465 million loan from 2010. They paid it back in full and early.
Right.
Not like Ford, not like GM. And quote here from Mr. Armstrong in Nevada. He said, "We're a third of the way through the process. What they're doing now is just going to be greater later."
Right.
So they got a great investment on their $1.3 billion tax abatement. Tesla did and Nevada did. It's a win-win for both of those.
Right.
And so stop saying that Tesla's getting special treatment. Yes, they are getting tax treatments, but they're not special.
Right. They happen everywhere. Other car companies get far more.
Right.
And so, when people bring this argument to you, have these numbers in your back pocket. Have the GM figures, ready to go. Talk about Louisiana. Talk about when it goes bad. Bring this into a real conversation so that way, they walk away knowing a bit more. It's not just about being right. It's about informing people. And that's what we try to do on this show. And we hope that you can do the same thing. And if you need help, send them over to this YouTube video and show them no, your argument doesn't hold water. And in fact, let's have a discussion about what makes the most sense.
We want to give a shout out and credit to Together Louisiana's YouTube channel, especially their video, Why Louisiana Stays Poor.
Right. If you haven't seen it, watch it down below. Yeah. They can present it much better than we have in terms of just Louisiana.
It's moving.
It's devastating, actually.
Right.
It's just...
And it shows you that people in Louisiana have to get together and change your structure because you can't just keep giving rubber stamp tax credits to companies. It's not helping you.
Right. And people wonder why big oil, oil is so cheap. These are tax incentives that are going to the oil companies. When we're talking about subsidies for oil, these are some of the things that we're talking about.
Right.
It's just infuriating. And it's just really nice to be able to tell you guys.
It's something we can change.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all just rules that our government came up with. We can change them if we want to.
Right. Not written in stone.
That's right. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of In Depth. We're going to see you next week with another one, but we need your support. So think about going over to Patreon and supporting us for as little as $1 a month to get to see our Patreon bonus stories. Also, don't forget that you can get these awesome t-shirts from SFSF, and a little bit of your purchase goes to help us on the show. Thank you for joining us, everybody. Now you know.